Welcome to Your Dental Success Podcast, the show that reveals how to take your dental practice to the next level. Hear from professionals in the industry as they share their stories of success and inspire you. You'll also discover how to attract more patients with effective digital marketing strategies. Here's your host, Mike Pedersen.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. This is going to be a high-energy podcast, I can assure you. Grab your beverage of choice, sit back, and soak up all the information about to be discussed. We're going to talk about the business of dentistry, specifically what it takes to not only grow your dental business, but thrive. Today's guest is Dr. Keanar Shah. Keanar is a practicing dentist and an entrepreneur from Palm Desert, California. As a traveling healthcare provider, Dr. Shah has practiced in more than 300 offices. As a businessman, Dr. Shah has built numerous co-brand, private label, and peer-to-peer partnerships in the healthcare industry. Dr. Shah reads, writes, and speaks English, German, and the Farsi languages. Dr. Shah enjoys world travel, public speaking, studying and researching historical events, and participating in sports including soccer, table tennis, and fitness. Keanar, so glad to have you on the show today, sir.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
This is going to be a very enlightening discussion today that will be an eye-opener for every dentist and team member listening. We're going to be talking about ways to thrive and grow your practice in today's competitive environment, which will include the topic of marketing your dental business. But first off, tell us about this amazing peer-to-peer systems and mechanisms, and also this top doctors in dentistry that you have going on over there.
Oh, sure. So after dental school, I pursued an MBA, and throughout that time, a few years later, actually, I was doing it at nighttime while I was practicing, and learned a lot about peer-to-peer concept. It was the beginning of the era for the financial industry where they explored blockchain and were able to start lending peer-to-peer without utilizing the banks with certain regulatory aspects of obtaining lending licenses and so forth. And it sparked one idea to another idea. Then we did a global summit where we brought in 50 doctors from over 40 countries to sort of create a toolbox for our colleagues in the implantology world they're apprehensive but would want to get into implantology, which is a hot topic in dentistry. And more ideas developed. The Extraction Academy developed in 2014, and we started looking at peer-to-peer lean operations, where we essentially rely less on the bigger enterprises to prosper in our own businesses. And the vast majority of dentists are still independent practitioners that have their own businesses, but now we're facing a bigger beast, the corporations that have unlimited resources. So we have to be smarter, we have to work smarter, we have to educate ourselves, we have to turn to partners and peers that are experts in the industry. Out of that idea came about the top 100 doctors, where we gathered up board of regions. After our second global summit, we had an executive summit. We brought in dentists and doctors from many areas of business and clinical aspects, also from the supply chain, and people in places of authority that have accomplished something or that could inspire and motivate our colleagues to do the same in information exchange. My main interest in having this discussion with you is that you're the founder of Dental Boost and also of this Dental Success podcast. You have interviewed and worked with a lot of our colleagues. You're a well of knowledge in marketing, and you have gained the respect of many key opinion leaders. So our mission with all of the efforts that we are doing with these summits is to empower the private practitioner and enable the younger generation to use the information that we already know works to start their own careers and start their own lives and find ways to prosper by turning to colleagues that have done it, seen it, and know what works and what doesn't work in this ever-changing environment. And so we started this series, and you're an oasis of knowledge in the marketing space. So I think my colleagues would really enjoy a discussion between us and what you have learned out of your many years in this space, and all of the efforts that you do, and all the dentists you talk to every week, and identify the problems that we face in our clinical practices and how we can stay competitive with the other ones. So peer-to-peer is all about empowerment and enabling and using lean system. It worked really well for the financial sector. And I believe that there is applications for this in continuing education, supply chain, purchasing power, and utilizing technology to the maximum and creating an environment where we can continue to prosper and maintain autonomy over our profession.
The peer-to-peer, I think, is amazing, and you've done a phenomenal job. I've done my research on you as well, and peer-to-peer in dentistry, I think, is going to be amazing what you got going on, and the top doctors in dentistry. I clicked on a lot of those faces on that website, which will let all of our listeners know about the different websites you've got and how they can contact you and find out more. But the top doctors in dentistry, I have been fortunate to have quite a few of them as guests on the podcast, number one. And the ones that I haven't, we need to reach out and get them on the podcast, right? So that'll be a goal of both of ours after this is all done and everybody listens to this. But you've got some impressive doctors on that top doctors website for sure, no doubt. So, I commend you on your commitment to the industry for sure. And I'm so impressed with even what you've done just in Palm Desert. I mean, where you've got your practice and where you live with your family. I did my research on you there too. And I'm so happy to have you on because it's just great to talk to another business-minded dentist, right? Where, you and I have had several, almost lengthy phone calls before this podcast recording today. And they've been very, high energy and lots of enthusiasm and optimism. And I think it's great to talk to somebody like you who has a business mind. You're a great clinician, but you also have a really good business mind. And that's the kind of dentist I enjoy speaking with the most is, yes, as a dentist, you are a clinician, but also you are a business owner. And, I've even changed my verbiage. When I get somebody on the phone, a dentist on the phone, I call them a business owner. And I say your dental business. I don't say your dental practice anymore. I used to say practice all the time, and now it's really hit home to me that I want the listener to act and think and make decisions as a business owner, not as a clinician, right?
Hey, Mike, I totally agree. You have to also have a business mind that's half of the equation, if not more. And a big part of that equation is marketing. So we have to be able to wear different hats in order to be successful in dentistry. But what is for sure is if you work for yourself and you hold your equity and you expand your business year after year and invest properly in different avenues such as marketing, you can succeed and you don't have to work for anybody else and you can realize your dreams.
I'm glad you agree with that. I think the big thing with marketing, and we know it's kind of the elephant in the room, and it's this, that most of the dentists out there have had, unfortunately, very bad experiences with lots of companies and lots of agencies in marketing. I think you even mentioned you've had a couple of bad experiences yourself. So you're no stranger to, kind of hiring a marketing company, investing, lots of money sometimes in hopes that things happen and you get overpromised and underdelivered. And then what happens is that the dentist gets very, disincensed. They have a low trust factor. And then pretty soon they just don't know who to trust or who to turn to when it comes to marketing. When you're talking about investing 5 to 10 or more % of your gross revenue. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that as well.
Well, Mike, we get bombarded with opportunities by Facebook, experts, radio and TV and local magazines and print. And then doctors that get burned over and over and over, they certainly get disincentivized. But we have to define what the proper approach is. So a lot of my colleagues will ask the question and would want to hear from you. How do you choose the right partner? And note that I emphasize a partner because someone that's just a vendor is going to do the job and walk away. But if you have a partner that you actually work with, like your CPA or your attorney in your marketing that understands the space, you're obviously going to succeed much better. So what do you say to that person? How would they choose the right marketing partner?
Well, number one, I'm glad you said the word partner because every time I get on a phone call, I want to kind of distinguish that right away at the beginning of the call is that I've been doing digital marketing personally and professionally both for 19 years. And what they talk about the internet is it's like dog years because it's so fast. So, dog years is 7 years for every 1 year. So if we do the math for how long I've been doing digital marketing in internet years, what is that? 140 years, something like that. So I guess I'm ancient. Over a century, right? Something like that. But but in all seriousness, the internet's moving so fast all the time, and got to have a marketing partner that has your back, that wants to work side by side with you. And I know I've actually been on phone calls now where I've told the dentist we're not a good fit. And honestly, the reason why was they didn't have a positive mindset, they didn't have a growth mindset, and they really wanted the lowest cost vendor. And I've been working with dentists exclusively for 9 years now. And of course, we're not the lowest cost vendor because in this world, you do get what you pay for. And, not to say that, if you go out and spend lots of money on a marketing company, you're going to get the best. You've got to, like you said, you've got to vet the company. But I think it goes back to the initial conversation. When a dentist is talking to a marketing agency, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the owner of the agency? Are you talking to a salesperson? Who are you talking to? Define that person. Typically, you want to talk to the agency owner. And if the agency is so big, that the dental marketing agency is so big that you do have a salesperson, that might be a red flag, because who are you going to get that's going to take on your account? Employee number 104? That employee, is that going to be a 22-year-old kid who just graduated with an internet marketing degree that has no experience in the real world? Right? So we've worked with a lot of dentists that have left some of the big companies in the United States, which I'm not going to mention names. I'm not here to do that, but they're the big of the big, because they were treated like a number. They truly got, a client support specialist that was some young kid, and they didn't have their best interest at heart. The response rate from the bigger agencies was abysmal. I mean, Keonor, it was like, the dentist would send an email for a request, whether it was, hey, we have a new team member, we'd like to put them on the website. It would take 7 days to hear back from an agency, just to hear back. And, that's not good. So, you've got to ask a lot of good questions on, what's the background of the person you're speaking to? What's the background of the agency? What do they believe in marketing? What do they believe in demographics? Because it really comes down to, in every demographic across the United States, different marketing strategies work and some don't work. So it's not a one size fits all. And if you get a sales pitch from a dental marketing agency that is really standard and it just talks about SEO only, or Facebook ads only, or Google ads only, and that's all they do, and that's the cure all end all, that's a big red flag right there. You want to talk to somebody that talks about marketing from a holistic standpoint. They talk about, and you want to talk to somebody that asked you, the business owner, about your demographics, asked you, some critical numbers, and I know you and I had a real interesting talk about knowing all of your numbers, cost, per acquisition, how much to invest in marketing, what's your average patient worth the first year, what's your average patient worth lifetime, how long do you keep a patient? These are all numbers that I discuss on a phone call right away with a dentist. And what happens a lot of the time is they don't know about 85% of these numbers. And I think we, as even the peer-to-peer that you talk about, and I want to work with you on this to really get out to the masses, know your numbers from inside and out.
Yes, I mean, it's also very important that you have dental experience. I mean, you're talking about multi-channel marketing, and demographics and different advertisements and approaches don't necessarily work in dentistry. And I want to get into sampling with you here shortly. But you brought up a good point. So how much one should invest? I mean, marketing makes the biggest companies grow and grow and grow to giant enterprises. And you referenced one quote in your article that I found quite interesting. The business willing to spend the most to acquire a customer wins. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, I hate the word spends. I like the word invest, right? The business that's willing to invest in the most to acquire a customer wins. That quote was from probably going to be touted in the history of the world, one of the most successful CEOs, which is Jeff Bezos of Amazon.com. And Jeff Bezos has lived by that phrase. He's been laughed at on Wall Street for years and years. You're losing money. This is a horrible business. Amazon's terrible. Now to, highest revenue businesses in the world. He's one of the most wealthiest men in the world. So I think when Jeff Bezos says something, he pretty much knows what he's talking about. So that's one of the phrases I say early on. And the reason why I bring that up to a dentist is, again, I want them to shift from being a clinician for just a minute on our phone call to being a business owner. When you think about being a business owner, don't reinvent the wheel. Look at what the most successful business owners are doing out there and replicate it. And that's a critical aspect, right?
Yes, I like how you broke it down in layman terms as to how a business can grow and allocate more funds each year based on a percentage or a customer acquisition cost. So I want to go over some of those numbers with you. You said the SBA recommends about 10 to 12% of gross revenues. I've heard you also say that at times that 10 to 30% would make more sense. I completely agree with you about allocating something every month. And I've seen from some of your materials that you put out that most dentists only invest about 1% of their marketing, and they're surprised that the patients are not coming to the door. Could you give us a little bit insight on that?
Well, that's exactly right. And again, this goes back to the dentist being the clinician and really not knowing what's really expected of a business owner to grow a business. And all the numbers, I've got a blog post, and anybody should go to dentalboost.com, click on in the top link, blog, and then I've got a blog that says how much should you invest in marketing to grow your business. And that's all data-based, research-based. You can click on the links of where all the numbers came from, but you're right. The Small Business Association said on the low end 7 to 10%, on the high end 12 to 15%. But there are other studies out there and other research documents, one in dentaleconomics.com, where an article was written up to 30% of gross revenues. And that would give most of our listeners a heart attack, because again, most of the dental offices out there, dental businesses out there are small businesses. They could be $1 million gross revenue, they could be $800,000 gross revenue, and then the more successful ones, they're 1.5, 2 to 3 and above for solo practice owners. And the ones that are in the 1.5 and above, those are the ones that are truly investing about 10%. We've been fortunate enough to work with dozens and dozens of dental businesses. And there you go again. I want to remind you, I called it a dental business, not a practice. We've worked with dozens and dozens of 1.5 and above that are investing 10%, and they are dominating their markets. Absolutely dominating.
It's really a decision that you have to make. I mean, for simplicity of numbers, 1 million gross, $100,000 in marketing, that's $8,333 a month. I mean, I would invest that kind of money to make $1 million, or the alternative is making $500,000 and enjoying the net profits that come off that.
I think the big issue is that I think a lot of dental business owners out there, they really look at marketing as an expense. And yes, I will say that when you're cutting a check, and that's the old school, now it's you're not cutting a check, but you're investing every month. Yes, you have to invest, or the money is coming out of your pocket, out of your business, so to speak, in hopes that you're going to grow, have an ROI of 3 to 1, 5 to 1, 10 to 1. But if you don't do that, your competitors that are doing it are going to crush you, and you will probably have a declining business year after year after year. So I can tell you right now, I had a call, just as a perfect example. I had a call with a dentist in Kansas City. And Kansas City is about, I think it's 400,000 population, something like that. So according to the American Dental Association, for every 100,000 population, you've got 60 to 80 competing dentists. And that was a study back in 2014 or 16. That is probably a low number now. I would say it's more 80 to 100 per 100,000. So be smart about where you choose to open a practice. If you're a startup dentist listening to this, be smart where you choose to start your business, because if you start a business in a 200,000, 300,000 population, you're going to have 300 competing dentists. And I can assure you the top 10 dentists are investing 10% or more, because the dentist that I had on the phone was a $3 million practice, and he was investing almost $20,000 a month in marketing and advertising.
So let's talk about this matter that you just brought up. That's of interest to me. So a person that goes into location, we hear that all the time.
Yep.
But what if you end up in a medical building versus a high foot traffic, say strip mall setting or something similar? How should they wisely invest to get the patients to walk up the stairs?
That would be digital, right? I mean, that would be getting found in the Google Maps, getting found on SEO. Could be Facebook advertising. It could be direct mail. Direct mail, believe it or not, still works. We've got several clients of ours right now. We've got a good postcard campaign that we've created personally on our end here that's much better than a lot of the real stock cookie cutter postcards that are going out there. And we've got some dentists that are doing very well. They're getting an 8 to 1 ROI on direct mail postcard marketing. And a lot of the listeners, especially the millennials, would be like, oh, come on, we stand over our trash cans throwing those away. But it still does work. It just depends on the area where your practice is at. But when you're in like a medical building, what's going to typically happen is you're going to have multiple dentists in that building as well. So you've got competition, not even down the street. You've got competition above you and below you and next to you. So, and we talk to a lot of our dental clients and prospects we have on the phone are in medical buildings. And that makes it very tough because now you've just upped the competition, because why is somebody going to pick your practice over somebody that is one floor below you, that's one floor above you, that's next to you? You know, that gets into unique selling propositions, that gets into what makes you different in the marketplace. And that's a whole nother podcast where, you know, the days are gone where you say, we've got TVs in the ceiling, we've got free Wi-Fi, we've got free coffee. Everybody has that. Every dentist has that.
Let me be the devil's advocate here.
Oh, I love it.
I'm the dentist sitting here,
Yep.
and I'm thinking to myself, $8,300 a month based on studies that have been done and verified for $1 million gross is a reasonable number. So I'm thinking to myself, every marketer that comes through the door tells me the same thing. I have to continue to repeatedly market. And then I'm investing in, for example, a massive TV advertisement locally, and it keeps sucking up my cash.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing the patients come through the door. At what point do you cut I mean, this is something they taught us in dental school. You go and sample. You do the TV, you do the digital, you do the direct mail, the local print, the radio, the TV, the community engagements, and you see what works, and whatever data you collect to your front desk of how they found you, you start investing more into that and start dropping the others. That's a simple concept in business that is called sampling. But at what point do we say, hey, this is just an empty hole I'm dumping money into? When do you say enough is enough?
I love even just hearing that little bit of frustration in your tone right there, because it's real. This is real. It's, you know, when a dentist invests money and invests, you know, $8,000 a month if they're $1 million practice, I mean, you would expect to get a positive return on your investment, which 1,000% you will if you're working with the right agencies. But what happens is in marketing is like all marketing. It takes consistency. It takes a little bit of time before you dump it. And I'll give you some examples of time frames. Depending on the type of marketing strategy or campaign you're implementing, you've got to give it at least 3 months. You have to minimum give it 3 months. But I'll give you an example. You know, we've got a phenomenal Google Maps optimization campaign going with lots of our dentists. It's doubling and tripling the amount of calls they're getting every month from Google search. It's really, really cool. But SEO is a long-term play, and SEO is the black hole for all the dentists listening. And when they hear me even say SEO, they're going to run. They're going to maybe stop listening. They're going to stop. They're going to probably stop the podcast right here. But I hope they don't, because there is a long-term play with SEO. SEO can take anywhere between 4 months to 6 months, and if a dentist is way back in the rankings, even in the maps, you know, the map section of Google, that box, which is what we really focus on initially with a lot of our dental clients, that box, you've got what they call a 3-pack, which is what shows up on the phone and shows up right away. And then if you click more places, the link rate, 20 additional ones show up. So if a dentist comes to an agency and says, and we find out they're, you know, position 29, well, Google isn't going to reward you in a month to be in the 3-pack. That's not going to...
We all have a short span. We want to we look on the first page, and that's well known.
Yes, so SEO is a 6 to 12 month plan, but any dentist that's looking long term, they should definitely be implementing SEO as part of their marketing strategy. If they're not, it's a really big mistake. But if you're implementing, let's go over to something like Facebook ads or Google ads, things like that. That would be, you could even really pivot within a month, within 30 days of a Google ad campaign or a Facebook ad campaign. I wouldn't dump it, but within 30 days, if the ROI isn't kind of, you know, getting into the 2-to-1, 3-to-1 within 30 days, you might want to sit down with your marketing partner and find out why. Like, look at the landing pages, look at, you know, who you're targeting, you know, what are you doing, what's the messaging, is it reaching the right audience? Because there might be a little tweak in one of those campaigns that when you discuss it, which we have monthly calls with all of our dentists, which it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of marketing agencies that basically disappear. They really disappear. The dentist doesn't know where their money's going. They try to reach out to these companies, and the companies don't respond. We have monthly kind of wrap-up calls, and we go over reporting, and we go over, you know, any questions they have, including talking about, you know, ongoing marketing strategies. So to answer your question kind of generally, I would say 30 days for a Facebook or Google Ads campaign. Direct mail, oh God, you got to go 3 to 6 months for direct mail. They've got to get that postcard 3 to 6 times. And then within 3 to 6 times, you're going to get a consistent number of knowing that when that mailer goes out, you're going to get X number of people calling and coming into your office. And 9 times out of 10 with a good mail campaign with the right postcard that's branded, not some cookie cutter stock thing, which is what most of them are, within 3 to 6 months, you'll get a 4-to-1 to 6-to-1 ROI on direct mail. And like I said, a lot of millennial dentists listening they're going to scoff at it. This will be another disconnect for a lot of the younger dentists that they might click out of the recording right now when they're listening to it. The first one was SEO. We might lose somebody there, which I hope we don't. And then the next one would be direct mail postcards. Are you kidding me? But there is a play for that depending on your demographics. So between 3 to 6 months would be kind of a ballpark of really having a heart-to-heart phone call with your marketing company to decide to either pivot it or ditch it altogether.
Good point, because it becomes a nuisance when you're investing and you're not getting the results you hope for, and you get disappointed. So I'm a business educated. I mean, I went to business school to get some education about a lot of things. They look at it like we look at it in surgery. Talk to me about. Actually, let me go over some numbers that I caught on your article. Customer acquisition costs is a big number for any business to consider.
Yep.
And they base a lot of their studies and strategies on that particular number. Very important number. For me, being outside of the box thinking and working on the weekends and one day a week during the weekdays, my customer client costs are hovering around $200. But I would think that if you're in a high competitive area, that you're going to have to invest more like you say, probably $300 to $500 should be embraced in such areas. Tell me more about that. I mean, at what point does it stop with the competition if you're in these type of environments? Or do you think once you embrace the idea of investing that much to acquire the customer, your competition will remain low with the environment we're in?
Cost per acquisition is a discussion that I have with every dentist on the phone. And unfortunately, a lot of the times when they're talking to marketing agencies, that phrase doesn't even come up. But I call it knowing your numbers. You've got to know all your numbers as a dental business owner. And again, you can Google this too, which the beautiful thing about Google is if I say anything to a dentist on the phone, I'm confident that they can go right into Google and get these exact same numbers. So I'm not pulling these numbers out of thin air. These are business numbers. Some of them are from Harvard Business Review. Some of them are from Small Business Association. Others are from American Dental Association. These are big organizations. But yes, the cost per dental patient acquisition, the more competitive it is, common sense says it's going to cost more, because now you've got hundreds of dentists trying to get that same human being to come in their office and sign up for procedures. Hundreds of dentists. So the dentist that's willing to wisely invest the most to acquire that patient is going to win. And so, Kansas City, like I told you, talking to that one dentist, $20,000 a month. He didn't even blink at that. Like that, and they've been doing that for 20 years, and they're dominating. They're literally dominating, and his mindset is it's a cost of doing business. For us to stay at the top, they just don't even think about it. It's $20,000 a month every single month for 2 decades. So yes, on the low end, I think you're looking in non-competitive areas, rural areas, small communities that maybe have 5 or 10 competing dentists. You could get down in the $100 to $150 per new patient because you don't have any competition. But that would be the lowest number I would ever quote to anybody on the phone. And that would be if I have their location pulled up on a Google map and I'm sharing my screen with them as we're talking. So they're watching me move around. They're literally seeing me look at their business on my computer because I'm sharing my screen with them, which is very impactful, by the way. When I have a phone call to share a screen, going over their website, going over their Google rankings, going over population size, demographic size, it's pretty impacting for the dentist to really see that visually. But if you're getting into cities of 50,000 population or more, you're going to get 30, 40 competing dentists to hundreds of competing dentists. Now you're going to be in kind of the $250 to $300 per patient acquisition. And if you're looking at the higher procedures like Invisalign, dental implants, any of these bigger procedures, dentures even, things like that, you're at 500 per acquisition for sure, no doubt. But as a dental business owner, if you get a dental implant case, an all uppercase of $20,000, right, and it costs you $500, would you spend $500 to make $20,000?
The 500, yes, but can I compare some of these numbers in your article with
yes.
The reality of the overhead that we face?
Absolutely.
So I'm looking at them, 150 to 300 per patient. A new patient spends 700 to 1250 in 1 year.
Yes.
A new patient generates 4,500 in revenue in a lifetime, and according to the ADA survey, average patient spends $653 per year. So I don't think these numbers apply in all scenarios. They're too low. So if you're spending $500 on a client for an implant case, you would receive $20,000 likely for multiple implants or what have
Yes.
you. So the number of 4,500 in revenue in a lifetime doesn't necessarily apply. So I want to make sure the audience understands that when we say $150 per patient acquisition, that applies more to those numbers that they see to your article. But if there is more higher orthodontics, implant, full mouth rehabilitations, that you do see the ROI that you're looking for on the $500 per patient.
Well, and even Invisalign, Invisalign orthodontics, Invisalign's $5,000 in some places, locations in the United States, it could be down to $4,000. But again, wow, I mean, where in the stock market can you invest 500 and make 4,000? It's
That's why we're in dentistry.
Exactly. But I will tell you this also. I do hope that people Google or just go to thedentalboost.com, go to the blog link at the top, and then it's like the third or fourth, and all the blog articles that are written by me personally and they're researched by me. This is not a self-plug. This is valuable information, business information that every dentist should consume. But I will tell you this, the numbers talking about cost per acquisition and the American Dental Association saying that the average dental patient can stay with the practice from 7 to 10 years. The average patient will invest $600 per year. That is extremely low. That is almost off the charts low. When I talk to a dentist and I want them to give me their number, the number I typically hear is $800 on the low end, and on the high end, as you can imagine, it's in the thousands. Yes. And that's and that's what I call that is the first year patient value. The first year. So when you think about cost per new patient and you think of 500, don't think, well, gosh dang, I'm going to get that patient in. They're going to do exams, cleaning, and maybe they might do a filling or two. Well, shoot, that's a $200, $300 patient. Well, yeah, that was a $200 or $300 patient the first visit. But if the patient experience was top notch by the internal staff and everybody, when that patient walked in that door, there's a couple of things that are going to happen. That patient's going to come back for multiple procedures that year, which is going to now take that number up to 800 to 1,000 or more. Here's what those numbers don't cover. And Fred Joyle of 1-800-Dentistry, he's been on a couple of our podcasts. He's got a couple of great books. He's got 2 great books out. But he talks about a new patient value, lifetime value, in the tens of thousands. And let me tell you why. If you give a good patient experience, which every dental business owner should really be focusing on, if they don't, go get a dental practice management consultant to come into your office and fix it. If you give a good patient experience, that patient should minimum walk out the door and turn it into 1 referral on the low end. And on the high end, that should turn into bringing their whole family back. That should turn into bringing coworkers back. That should turn into bringing family members back, relatives back, right? Friends of you.
So you only get one chance at a first impression often, and the one of the most powerful marketing tools, the word of mouth,
yes,
could start kicking as a consequence. Fred's got some great books out there.
Oh, they're phenomenal.
Highly recommend the read. That's great stuff. So you did answer my questions, so the audience also, when they read your article, put that into perspective. So here is another topic. Now, we have a lot of people, you have your 22-year-old Facebook experts that wake up one morning and have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And we have people that have been in the space for more than a decade, some for decades, that actually know what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, Facebook hasn't been around, but that's not the only venue. We have discussed multiple things that still work. And I agree with you that direct marketing, we do that for our Extraction Academy courses, where we get a good response using direct mailers still till today.
Yep.
But here's the thing. So they come in, and you recommended on the low end 90 days to explore some of these options, some for 30 days, like the digital. And so you're saying that 3% are usually ready to buy when they see the first advertisement. I've heard in different books and other venues that somebody needs to be exposed to something about 7 times before they buy. You have to see it about 7 times or hear the message. But you're saying that only 3% are ready to buy, 17% are just information gathering, 20% have this problem that they're aware of, and 60% of them don't even know that they have this problem and are not aware of. So how do you convert that 17% and the 20% that's information gathering to the 3% that wants to buy now?
This is a topic that's dear and near to my heart because it's full-blown marketing. And so what happens is you can Google this all day long. What's the percent of consumers ready to buy now? Just Google that, and you might see, depending on the credibility of the source, because the internet has lots of crazy sources out there, right? So you've got to be looking for Harvard Business Review, Small Business Association. Really, if you land on some little blog, inexperienced professional row, then you could hear some weird numbers. But what I want the listener to understand on that 3%, it's critical because a lot of dentists have sort of unrealistic expectations, meaning that you hire a marketing company, you're investing 8 to 10% of your gross revenues, and you want 30 to 50 patients. Well, we already talked about the cost per acquisition, so we can all get out our phone calculators, and if it $500 per new patient, you invest $8,000. That's 16 patients a month. And a lot of dentists, if they think of investing $8,000, are going to think, I want 50 patients. If I'm going to invest $8,000, I want 30 to 50 patients every month. And that's not realistic. Now, if we get down to the 300 per patient and you pull up your calculator, yes, that could be into kind of the 25 new patients a month, range roughly. And remember, that's investing 8,000. So a lot of the average listener out there that's going to be hearing this podcast, I'm going to guess, I don't know, this is going to be a statistical number, but I'm going to guess they're investing 1%, and that's going to be $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month. And that does not warrant expectations of 10 to 15 patients a month. It doesn't. Now, there might be the rare occasion that a dentist would, if we even had dentists call in right now, which would be kind of cool, actually. That'd be kind of cool. But if we had some dentists call in right now, we might get some dentists that say, I get a new patient, in my chair for $50 a person. I only spend $800 a month. You can get that rare occasion, but we're talking about averaging numbers across the board, across the United States. So when you're talking about attracting that 17% that are gathering information and the 20% that know they have a problem, but they don't know where to go, that's brand awareness, and that's also follow-up in marketing. And you've got two forms of follow-up. You've got internal follow-up, which is the dental practice. That is going to be somebody designated in your office. Their job is when a call comes in, if that call does not convert to a scheduled appointment, they should go into a follow-up campaign internally. And a lot of the third-party softwares now have all that built in, but we've found out with all the clients we've interviewed and talked to and the front desk people we've interviewed, it's single-digit percentages of the front office people that are actually using these softwares for follow-up. And if you do not follow up with an inquiry that does not turn into a booked appointment, that's a wasted lead that you've paid for with your marketing agency.
Let me ask you this.
Yep.
So if you're the front, that's a very important thing. Do you train the front? Because you can't obviously be at all of the places at the same time. Do you have a certain protocol because that's very important, whoever answers the phone and how they answer it and what they say to the patient?
Yes, and we've got some partners. Again, you talk about peer-to-peer. I'm a full believer in peer-to-peer. We're not the cure-all, end-all, and we don't have all the solutions, but we definitely partner with some of the most successful, biggest dental companies in the United States that are experts at, what do you say on the phone? What do you do for follow-up? What do you do for all these different things? We have a follow-up system digitally that we can implement with the front desk. Yes, we have that, and it's a very, very neat system that's very handy. We've found out even walking through, giving a demo to the front desk, very few implement it. And it's a real big problem in most of the dental practices out there is not having a team member that's dedicated to the follow-up. Because as you mentioned earlier, statistics show people need to be followed up on 7 to 15 times before they make a decision. And the typical follow-up from a front desk person is a phone call and an email, and they drop it right there. That's it, there.
Do you see any kind of consistencies or patterns over all the years you've been in the space for the dental industry?
As far as what? Patterns of what?
Patterns of success with your approach and the clients that you have had?
Well, again, it's all in the follow-up. You can have the best marketing agency in the United States in dental that is sending you qualified leads from whether it's Facebook ads, Google ads, it's people clicking on a Google result in SEO. You can have the best at that. But there's two really huge components that are intertwined with that. Number one is how good the person is on the phone. Are they empathetic? Are they compassionate? There's a phrase I use with all of the dental practices we work with. That person answering the phone should have this plaque on the front, right near their computer. And here's what it is. Always find a way to get to yes. Always find a way to get to yes. And that should be a plaque right next to their phone. Because you're going to get all kinds of objections like, maybe they want to come in on a Friday and you're not open on Fridays. Maybe they want to come in at 7 o'clock and you're not open at 7 o'clock. Maybe they don't have any discretionary cash. You've got to be ready with those objections we've got financing. We can get you in same day. We'll squeeze you in. You've got to go above and beyond.
What if they're price shopping? What if they come out and say, hey, how much does procedure cost? We don't quote anybody over the phone.
No.
We have to see the problem first.
Yes, 100%. And that, if they really are adamant about that and you kind of try to diffuse it with, hey, we've got a no cost, a complimentary, consultation. Let's get you in as soon as we can. We want to really take care of it. We've got financing options. If the front desk person goes through all of that on their scripts and they say it very empathetically, and that person still wants to know a dollar amount, that really is not a good person you want to work with in your business anyways. So unfortunately, if you have gone through that protocol and that front desk person has covered everything from, let's get you in the next couple of days. We know you're in pain. We know you have some financial issues. We've got in-house funding. We've got financing. We've got care credit financing. We can get you in and take care of you under most circumstances. Let's get you in. What's a good day and time for you in the next couple of days? Done right there. If that is said, and the person still is wanting to know price, yes, could you give a ballpark? Of course. You could give a ballpark. You can't diagnose over the phone, so you don't know what the issue potentially is. But if they're saying I've got a toothache, well, you can chipped tooth, nerve, whatever that may be. You can give a ballpark, but again, even giving those ranges, you want to still push to that consult anyways. So a price shopper is not a really good potential patient for you anyways, but I do think that you could come up with a range for different procedures based on what the person's calling for. If they're calling for an emergency, I've got a chipped tooth,
I see, but here's the dilemma. If you
Yes.
give them any kind of information on the phone, the customer that might not be appropriate or the best scenario for your office comes in and says, oh, well, you guys told me on the phone this is how much it's going to cost. And the games that people play.
Oh, terrible. Yeah, that's why you have to, if you do get to the point, and this is a business decision that you have to talk over with your team and with the front desk person, but if it gets to that point where you want to give out any dollar amount, it's got to be a range. It's got to be a conservative range, and that range, as we all know, can vary. A dental emergency can be anywhere from, a filling for a couple $100 to a root canal to whatever, so that's where the front desk person says, we really need you to come in so that we can diagnose what your issue is. Then, we'll present you with, financing or whatever it is to get you in, but we cannot guess over the phone what your issue is based on what you're telling us. So it really does come back to realistically and very, very logically letting them know we need to have you come in so that we can diagnose what your issue is, and then of course we're more than happy to present you with what the cost is and your financing available in office.
That's really good. The fear that some dentists might have, and we have to possibly change the way we think about this, is that they might lose the customer if they don't give the number out, and if they give the number out or the range is probably good, but if they give the actual number out, that they might lose the customer. Or if they don't, it's like a lose-lose situation. Then they'll go back to the doctor that quoted them less. But there's a lot involved with quality and tools and equipment that we use, and the materials and the implants and where they come from. And there's a lot of considerations that patients don't also understand that is built into the price. Very good. Great information. A couple more questions. Something that's very dear to my heart is enabling independent sole proprietors. The world has changed. The world of dentistry has changed. You have insurance companies coming in, interfering with the patient-doctor relationship. You have corporate ownership backed by hedge funds and private investors and unlimited resources. What tips do you have? Maybe 3 tips for an independent sole proprietor that just wants to stay competitive and make it. Obviously, we have to use our dollars more wisely than the one that has unlimited resources. But we have also maneuverability that those corporations don't have, with all of the boards and corporocracy and bureaucracy and all of that. So what are some tips that you would give to my independent colleagues that want to still maintain autonomy over the profession and continuing this private practice model?
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is another thing about small business that's near and dear to my heart. Community involvement. Community involvement is massive. It is so huge. And I tell you what, I can't count on fingers and toes, and probably bones in my feet, which are a lot of bones, how many millennial dentists, and again, I don't want to target millennial dentists, but the younger dentists that are starting up a practice on their own. They've gotten financing to cover even marketing for a year, whatever it may be, right? I've had many of them that one of the first, they say, Mike, I need patients right now. I need them right now. And what I'll say is, what is your community? Step outside your front door. Step outside your front door. If you're in a strip mall, if you're in a business, executive suite, in any kind of environment like that, take a look around you. What is out right in front of you? Other businesses. Partner with other businesses. Go knock on their door. If you need patients now, that means you've got time. Even as a dentist, don't leave your ego at the door.
I do those things all the time. Just take a bunch of cards and cookies and walk around and open houses and have them come see my office and go to the local nursing place and donate to the local Christmas party. Or
has it worked for you?
Christmas. It works great.
Oh my gosh!
I can move
yes.
as fast as I want to. They can't move as fast as we can move.
Well,
they have to go and sit down and go through budgets for 100 offices. By the time they do that, they don't have the resource. They don't have the resources on a national scale to do everything to outcompete us in our local communities. We're way too many of us.
Yes.
So we have maneuverability. We can go and do whatever we want. I get on the local radio. I get on some TV news sections. I do a lot of community stuff, and it has always helped me because it's so easy. And at the beginning, yeah, you're freaking out because you're sitting there. The bank wants their monthly payment if you don't have the deal structured properly, and then you have all of this overhead staff and supplies. The ideal is for the younger generation that starts their own practice and owns all of their equity and has their autonomy and their freedom to go out and get their feet wet. Yeah, walking around businesses, bringing cards, greeting them, doing free cleanings, whatever it takes to start your business.
Well, and let me add to that. I want to give a story, true story. We've got a client outside of LA. I'm not going to, for autonomy, I'm not going to mention exactly where they're at. Husband and wife practice. They have 4 children. And it's pretty neat. And they're just awesome. They're just awesome people. I love having our monthly calls with them. It's fantastic. But the wife, with 4 kids, as you can imagine, the wife has chosen to be a very good mom, along with being a dentist. So wow, I mean, she's wearing a lot of hats. But she chooses to be a dentist because she loves dentistry. She's a dentist in the office 1 day a week, full day a week. 4 other days a week, she has children. Well, guess what she does? This is amazing. And this is a true story I'm about to tell you here. She's got 4 children spaced out into different schools. Elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, all that stuff. She is a staple in every one of those schools. She goes to all the PTA. She goes to everything. And she doesn't push dentistry on everybody. But when you're that involved, everybody wants to know what you do. And once you're out there enough, they know you're a dentist and your husband's a dentist and you've got a dental practice in the local area. Let me give you some numbers real quick. And just imagine any local dentist, and they're in a pretty populated area, so these numbers will vary. So what's that where you say, what do the commercials say? Results may vary, right? Whatever they got to say. But they get with zero marketing, and I don't like that because they brought us on for a new location that they started up, and it's been a lot of fun working with them. But in the location that they didn't bring us on for the last 15 years, they've spent zero money on advertising and marketing. And as a marketing agency, I don't like saying that, but hey, this is a true story. Guess how many new patients they get every month from the wife doing community work, and it's now a compound effect because she's been doing it for years and years and years. Just give me one number, and don't guess a super big number, because that's no fun, Keanu. Don't do that. Guess a realistic number you think they get in new patients every month, realistically.
If all the stars are right, my guess would be 50 patients.
80.
Wow.
80
That
patients
is
a
very
month.
nice.
So
that's all you really need. I mean, if you get 80 new patients a month, that's your blood flow of your practice.
they're a $3 million practice, solo practice, 3 million. So, but here's my point though, going back to the community, and here's where you can get creative with your staff, okay? Most of the staff in a dental office, most of it is female. And most of the females have children, most of them. As a team, can you imagine if you've got everybody on the team that's going out to school events, going out to community events, and they're not pushing dentistry, they're not pushing the business, but they're getting the word out, and they're getting known in the community. So if you've got a team of, let's say, three assistants and 2 hygienists, front desk person, you've got 6 or 8 additional team members for a small practice. You've got, not only can you the dentist, but you've just multiplied yourself 8 times over again with everybody on your team. Give them a bonus. Let's say they take time out of their evening to go to some school event, and then when the new patients start coming in from that event, because the front desk person should say, "Oh, we're so happy to come, have you come in. How'd you find out about us?" Because that's what every front desk person should be asking and taking note on, and that's old school. And the person says, "Oh, I met Sally over at the football game. She was running some booth, whatever." That when you find that out, Sally, who was at that football game, should get a little bonus. She should get a Nordstrom card, a gift card for every patient, every new patient that comes in, because that her efforts just brought in the value of a $500 cost per acquisition patient. On the low end, $300. She just brought in a new first year value of a $1,000 patient. Sally, who did that, should get a $50 to $100 gift card for that.
So there are a lot of ideas. Like you say, you got to sample the market, but I can tell you some have mastered how to get free press.
Oh, yeah.
You go and do 1 day a month free dental work for anyone that walks through the door.
Yes.
At least the ones that are in pain and can't afford it, and you do that on a regular basis, and you'll see how fast you're going to be on TV and radio of somebody covering you for what you're doing. So goodwill is also an investment, so it doesn't always have to be cash investment.
No,
There's
it's
a lot
massive.
of goodwill things that you can do.
Yep. Hey, I want to say one thing. We're running down to the end of our time here. I was so looking forward to this, and I think this is going to meet everybody's expectation and exceed it. I can't wait for everybody in your peer group to listen to this, for everybody off iTunes, because we are definitely on iTunes. You just look for Your Dental Success on iTunes, and there it is. But one thing I want to bring up about you, and you're going to probably blush through the phone over here, through Skype, but your business model in Palm Desert, I think, is one of the most brilliant business models out there. And I want you to kind of just say, you don't have to give numbers, whatever you're comfortable with. But when you told me how you run your practice, I was bowing down to you over the phone. I was bowing down to you. So can you let our listeners kind of know just what you're doing over there, without giving your secrets away to where another Palm Desert dentist might? But it doesn't matter, because there's
it doesn't matter. They're all my colleagues.
Yeah.
But, when you end up in an environment in California, if you have 6 dental schools popping out dentists, and some of the most advanced clinicians I've met in my career are in this area, and in Southern California, and LA, and San Diego, and Santa Barbara, and San Francisco, and on it goes. And Las Vegas is closed, and Phoenix, and I'm in a very populated area.
You are.
So credentials are one thing, but some of these guys have 30 years of experience, and they have established themselves as the authority in this community. So what would I do? Although I have decent credentials, what would I do to stay competitive and survive in a town that is full of dentists in every corner? So I tried the whole week thing, but I realized that, hey, a lot of these patients, they're moms and kids, and they're working Monday through Friday and Monday through Thursday, and the dentists around here are closing on Thursdays, and a lot of them are golfing and having a good time on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. So what happens with all these patients that have weekend problems? Because the human biology doesn't work based on weekdays.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's they end up at hospitals. The hospitals give them antibiotics and pain medication, tell them to go see their dentist on Monday. Can't do anything for them. The hospital staff, a lot of them don't have dentists on staff either. They have oral surgeons that come out for broken jaws and stuff like that, but that's a different story. So I started opening up on Saturdays, got swamped. I was making more money on Saturdays than I was making pretty much the rest of the week.
Amazing.
Then I just said, hey, why not Sundays? Maybe after church, people will come see us, and we start a little later on Sundays and go a little later during the day, and I do better on those 2 days where I don't really even need to practice any of the other days, but I'm open Tuesdays. Sometimes I bring in full mod rehabs on Wednesdays or on a free day with the anesthesiologist we have on the team. But I can comfortably do my business like a businessman during business hours, Monday through Friday, outside of Tuesdays. And then I can shut the phone and the emails down and just focus on my patients, and the schedule always full. Problems, you always get overflow of people calling. Let me tell you, the other Sunday I was working at 4 o'clock, a Canadian patient walks in. We have a lot of travelers from Canadian. Had a couple of drinks, fell down, broke the front
Oh,
14.
geez.
And it was 4 o'clock. I was excited to start wrapping up the day. But, she comes in and we gave her a quotation for the procedure with the root canals and the posts and the crowns, and at least putting her in a temporary so she could heal around the gums before I take the final impression. It was a $9,500 ordeal, and
Wow.
I discounted her a little bit. It came to like $8,000 worth of work that she really needed, and she was very happy that we could actually help her. Went up front, and I usually don't take the money all up front. I take half up front, and I do the other half when I deliver the product, whatever it may be. But she insisted she wanted to pay in full. And
Oh, boy.
so she writes an $8,000 check, and it's like, okay, that's nice. I'll stay for you till 8:30, whatever. And it works for me. It works great for me. So you have to think outside of the box when you're in environments where you have a lot of your colleagues competing without picking fights and becoming enemies. You're all colleagues. They say that you're best friends if you live 5 miles apart in dentistry. And it shouldn't be that way. We should all be colleagues. We should find better ways. There's shortages of dentists all over the world. There's more work for us than you can imagine. But we can think outside the box and do things that the other guy won't do,
We've definitely run out of time now, but I'm so glad we did not forget for you to cover that, because I will tell you that about 85% of my dental clients are closed on Fridays, every Friday, closed on Fridays. Probably 60 or 70% are closed at 5 o'clock p.m. And, and I've had discussions with them saying, and a lot of them will say, oh, we tried it, it didn't work. People didn't show up for their appointments, all these different things. But, you just said something that was so critical for the dentist who's a super growth-minded person. You have to think out of the box, outside of what everybody else is doing in your area, and what you're doing, which is you're staying open later, and you're open on the weekends. Now, now any dentist listening can experiment with that. Maybe it's 2 weekends a month. Maybe it's every other weekend. Maybe 1 or 2 days during the week you're open till 7. You play around with that a little bit. But I'll tell you, the dentist that's willing to do that will dominate their area, because the goodwill alone for that. I'm sure you've had a lot of patients. Well, look at the one who cut you a check for $8,000. I'm sure you've had a lot of patients on the weekend that have told you, thank you so much for seeing me on the weekend. Have you not?
And they're grateful for it.
Oh, boy.
That's the beauty of it. They're even more so grateful than patients that you give your best to during the week.
And how many of those do you think will go home, go to the next golf round they play with their friends, go to the next outing and tell everybody about their dentist? How many? All of them.
All of them. And then look at my Google and Yelp reviews.
Yeah, amazing.
The other. This
amazing.
guy stayed this long. This guy bought me a blanket.
Amazing.
It was the weekend. I did my crown, and on it goes.
Yeah, it's amazing. Kianor, I so much appreciate your time. I hope everybody in all of your networks listens to this. I think this was an eye-opener talking about know your numbers. Go to that blog post on thedentalboost.com. You've got to read that. It's statistically, it's researched. It's not anything coming out of, I didn't make those numbers up. But for all of our listeners that want to know more about you, the top doc, the peer-to-peer, all these things, how can they get a hold of you? Give us all your websites. Give us any of the contact information you're comfortable giving. This will all be on a dedicated webpage on thedentalboost.com for you, but we'll also have links to where we can email out to each other. But give us some of your website addresses. Give us all of your contact information that you're comfortable with.
Email is Kianor, kianor.shah@gmail. I'm mostly readily available there.
Okay.
I'm open. I receive dentist colleagues with open arms. and I've trained with many, probably over 2,000 doctors so far in some capacity or another. My phone number is 618-917-5805. I frequently have young doctors call and ask for advice and
nice.
direction, and I enjoy those discussions very much. And about my credentials, my background, kianorshaw.com. We run the extacademy.com and the top100.com, and also the gi-summit.com, and others that I will have for you that we are implementing as models for this peer-to-peer systems. And I really thank you for your time today, and that you're working for the benefit of my colleagues, most importantly.
You are very welcome. I want to thank you so much for your time. You're in Palm Desert. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. We will meet up soon, my friend. I promise you. I'm 4.5 hours from you. We will meet up and have a nice dinner and talk about all things dentistry. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope our listeners get a lot out of this episode.
Thanks again, Mike.
You got it. Bye-bye.
If you are looking for more information on how to attract more patients to your practice, go to thedentalboost.com today and schedule a personal strategy session with marketing expert and founder Mike Pedersen. Looking for a dental speaker for your study club, dental association, or continuing education conference? Mike brings a wealth of knowledge on dental marketing, SEO, and website usability with a high-energy, passionate approach. Contact him today. If you enjoyed the podcast, head over to iTunes and leave a review. While you're there, subscribe.